What if you discovered the man who raised your husband for 33 years wasn't his real father? And what if his entire family knew it for decades and chose to keep it buried? I told my husband the truth the night before we closed on our first home together. His mother still hasn't forgiven me. His brother won't speak to us. This is the story of how one drunken confession from my father-in-law destroyed the family I thought I was marrying into and forced us to choose who we really are. My name is Claire Thompson. I'm 31 years old. I work as a marketing coordinator for a mid-sized healthcare company in the suburbs of Chicago. My husband, Ben, is 33. He's a project manager at a construction firm. We've been married for 2 years, together for 5. We met at a mutual friend's barbecue in 2020. He was the quiet guy in the corner fixing the grill, while everyone else was drinking. I liked that about him, steady, reliable, the kind of man who shows up. His family seemed warm at first. His mom, Patricia, baked cookies for every holiday. His dad, Richard, everyone called him Rich, was the loud, beer-drinking, football-watching type who told the same stories at every dinner. His younger brother, Tyler, was the golden child, still lived at home at 30, worked odd jobs, always had an excuse. We bought our first house in Naperville last year, a 3-bedroom colonial with a big backyard. The closing was set for Friday in June. The night before, Rich asked if he could come over to help us pack the last boxes. Ben was working late, so it was just the two of us in the empty living room. He'd been drinking. Not blackout drunk, but enough that his words started slurring a little. We were sitting on the floor surrounded by moving boxes when he suddenly got quiet. "Claire, there's something you should know before you marry into this family for real." I laughed at first, thought he was going to tell me some embarrassing story about Ben as a kid, but his face was serious. "Ben isn't my biological son." The room went completely still. He told me everything in a low, broken voice. Patricia had an affair with a guy from her office when Ben was conceived. Rich had had a vasectomy years earlier after Tyler was born. He knew the baby wasn't his the moment Patricia told him she was pregnant, but he stayed. He raised Ben as his own. Never told a soul. Not even Tyler. "He's my son in every way that matters," Rich said, tears in his eyes. But Patricia made me swear never to tell him. She said it would destroy him. Destroy us. I sat there on the hardwood floor of our future home, heart hammering, and asked the only question that mattered. "Does Ben know?" Rich shook his head. "No one knows. Except me. And now you." That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling of our apartment and replayed every family dinner, every time Patricia looked at Ben with this strange mix of love and guilt. Every time Rich called Ben my boy a little too loudly. The next morning I told Ben everything. I thought he deserved to know before we signed the papers on our house. Before we started our life together on a foundation of lies. He didn't believe me at first. He laughed, that nervous laugh he does when he's scared. Then he called his dad. Rich admitted it over speakerphone, crying the whole time. Ben hung up and just sat there. For almost an hour, he didn't speak. When he finally did, his voice was small. "Why didn't they tell me?" I held him while he cried for the first time in our entire relationship. Real, shoulder-shaking sobs. The kind of crying that comes from 33 years of believing you knew exactly who you were. That was the beginning of the end of the family we thought we were joining. Patricia called me that same afternoon, voice shaking with rage. "How dare you? How dare you tell him? You had no right. You're not even blood." Tyler texted Ben, "You're dead to me if you believe her lies." They tried everything. Guilt trips. Family meetings where they insisted Rich was drunk and making it up. They even brought up old medical records showing Rich had a reversal, which was fake. I checked later. They made Ben feel like he was betraying his mother by even questioning it. But the DNA test we ordered 2 weeks later didn't lie. 99.9% probability that Rich was not Ben's biological father. The man who taught him to ride a bike, who coached his little league team, who walked him down the aisle at our wedding wasn't his blood. And the family that had kept that secret for 33 years turned on us like we were the enemy. I started noticing strange things after that. Old family photos in our new house would move slightly overnight. I'd wake up to the faint smell of Rich's aftershave in the hallway, even though he hadn't been over. One night, I found a note in my nightstand drawer, in Patricia's handwriting, that simply said, "Some secrets are better left buried." I never put it there. Ben started going to therapy. I went with him. The therapist said the betrayal wasn't just about the secret. It was about 33 years of being gaslit into believing the lie was love. We stopped going to Sunday dinners. We stopped answering their calls. But they didn't stop. They started a quiet campaign, telling extended family that I was trouble, that I was trying to destroy their family, that Ben was having a breakdown because of me. I let them think they were winning, because while they were busy painting me as the villain, I was quietly gathering every piece of evidence I could find. Old letters, medical records, texts where Patricia begged Rich never to tell. I was preparing, because the family that raised my husband on a foundation of lies was about to learn what happens when the truth finally comes out. And this time, I wasn't going to be the one crying on the kitchen floor. The first month after Ben learned the truth felt like walking through fog that never lifted. We moved into the new house anyway. The closing went through, but the joy we had imagined, painting the nursery we didn't even have yet, planting flowers in the backyard, hosting our first barbecue, was gone. Instead, the house echoed with silence and the occasional sound of Ben crying in the shower so I wouldn't hear him. He didn't sleep much those first weeks. He would sit at the kitchen island at 2 a.m. with his laptop open, staring at old family photos. Every picture of Rich holding him as a baby now looked different. Every "I love you, son" at Thanksgiving felt like a line from a script. I tried to be there for him. I made his favorite coffee in the mornings, black with a little cinnamon, the way his dad taught him. I held him when he needed it and gave him space when he didn't. But the guilt ate at me too. Had I done the right thing by telling him the night before we closed on the house? Would it have been kinder to wait? Patricia made sure I knew exactly how she felt. She called me almost every day for the first 2 weeks. At first the calls were pleading. "Claire, honey, you don't understand. Rich was drunk. He says crazy things when he drinks. Ben is his son. Blood doesn't matter."
Then the tone changed.
"You ruined everything. Ben was happy before you came along with your need to dig up the past. Some secrets keep a family together. You just tore it apart." Tyler was worse. He sent Ben long text messages accusing him of being ungrateful. "You're choosing her over Mom? After everything Mom did for you? She carried you for 9 months. She raised you. And now you're acting like Dad is a stranger because of some stupid test." Ben stopped replying after the 3rd message. He just put his phone on silent and stared out the window at our quiet suburban street. We went to couples therapy once a week. The therapist, Dr. Patel, was kind but direct. "Ben, this isn't just about paternity. This is about 33 years of being told a story that wasn't fully true. Your identity is shaking. That's normal. Claire, you're carrying guilt for telling the truth. That's also normal. The real question is, what kind of family do you both want moving forward?" Ben started asking questions we couldn't answer. Who was his real father? Did the man even know he existed? Why did Patricia have the affair? Was Rich ever going to tell him? Rich tried to reach out. He left voicemails, short, broken ones. "Benny, I'm still your dad. I changed your diapers. I taught you to throw a baseball. None of that changes because of blood. Please call me." Ben listened to everyone. Then he deleted them. The strange things in the house started around week 6. I would come home from work and find a single family photo moved from the mantel to the kitchen table. Always the same one. Ben at age 5 sitting on Rich's shoulders at a Cubs game. No one had touched it. One night, I woke up to the faint smell of Rich's Old Spice aftershave in our bedroom. Ben was asleep beside me. The windows were closed. The air felt heavy, like someone had just been standing at the foot of the bed watching us. I didn't tell Ben. He was already carrying enough. Instead, I started writing everything down in a private journal on my work laptop.
Dates.
Phone calls. Texts. The way Patricia's voice cracked between anger and tears. The way Tyler's messages grew more vicious. Because while Ben was grieving, his family wasn't grieving with him. They were regrouping. Patricia started a quiet campaign with the extended family. cousins, aunts, uncles. She told them I had stirred up trouble right before the wedding, that I was controlling, that I had made Ben question his entire childhood. She posted vague Facebook updates about toxic in-laws destroying families with sad emojis. People liked and commented with hearts. Tyler created a group chat without us, real family, and invited every relative except Ben and me. Ben found out when his favorite aunt accidentally added him. The chat was full of messages calling me that girl and saying Ben was having a midlife crisis at 33. The breaking point came on a Sunday in late July. We were supposed to have a quiet day, just the two of us, maybe grill some steaks in the backyard. Instead, Patricia showed up unannounced at our door with a homemade lasagna and that fake sweet smile she used when she wanted something. Ben, honey, we need to talk as a family, without her influencing you. I stood behind Ben in the doorway. He didn't invite her in. Mom, he said quietly, you lied to me for 33 years. Dad, Rich lied with you. You made me feel like something was wrong with me because I never quite fit the way Tyler did. And now you want to talk without my wife? Patricia's eyes filled with tears. Real ones this time, I think. I did it to protect you. To keep our family together. Blood doesn't make a father. Rich was your father in every way. Ben's voice cracked but stayed steady. Then why does it hurt so much? Why do I look in the mirror now and wonder whose eyes I have? Whose smile? She reached for him. He stepped back. I need time, Mom.
Real time.
Not guilt trips. Not Facebook posts. Not secret group chats. Time. She left the lasagna on the porch and drove away crying. That night, Ben and I sat on the back porch with a bottle of wine. The backyard was still mostly dirt. We hadn't planted anything yet. It felt symbolic. I want to find him, Ben said suddenly. My biological father. Not to replace Rich. Just to know. I nodded. Then we'll do it together. DNA test. Whatever it takes. He took my hand. Thank you for telling me. Even if it broke everything, thank you. We sat there until the stars came out. For the first time in weeks, the house felt a little less heavy. But the strange occurrences continued. The next morning, I found another note, this time on the bathroom mirror, written in steam that hadn't been there when I showered. It said, some truths heal, some destroy. Choose carefully. The handwriting looked like Rich's. I wiped it away before Ben saw it. I was starting to believe the house, or something in it, was trying to tell us something. And I was starting to realize that the real family betrayal wasn't just the secret. It was the way they chose to protect the lie instead of the man they claimed to love. Ben was beginning to heal, but his family? They were just getting started on their campaign to make us pay for the truth. And I was quietly preparing my own response. Because if they wanted war over blood versus choice, they were about to learn exactly how strong chosen family could be. The summer slowly turned into fall, and our new house began to feel less like a battlefield and more like a shelter. Ben started going to individual therapy twice a week. He would come home quieter, but in a different way, not the heavy silence of grief, but the thoughtful quiet of someone trying to rebuild himself from the inside. He bought a notebook and started writing letters he never sent. Some were to Rich. Some were to the father he had never met. One night, he read one out loud to me while we sat on the back porch under a string of fairy lights I had finally hung. Dear Dad, I mean Rich, I'm angry, but I also miss you. I miss the man who taught me how to change oil in the driveway on Saturday mornings. I don't know how to hold both feelings at the same time. I cried with him that night, not because I felt sorry for him, but because I was proud of the man he was becoming, someone willing to feel everything instead of pretending it was fine. We decided to do the DNA test properly, not the cheap 23andMe kit, but a full legal paternity test through a lab recommended by our lawyer. The results came back in early October. 0% probability that Rich was Ben's biological father. The report also gave us access to a relative database. Within 48 hours, we had a close match. A half-sister named Megan, 41 years old, living in Minneapolis. Ben stared at the message for a long time before he typed back. Hi Megan, this is going to sound crazy, but I think we might share the same father. I just found out recently. Would you be open to talking? Megan replied the same day. Her message was kind but cautious. I've always wondered why Dad had such a hard time connecting with me sometimes. If you're comfortable, I'd like to meet. No pressure. We drove up to Minneapolis one weekend in late October. The leaves were turning gold and red along the highway. Ben was nervous the entire 6-hour drive. He kept tapping his fingers on the steering wheel to an invisible rhythm. Megan met us at a quiet cafe near Lake Calhoun. She looked nothing like Ben at first glance. Darker hair, sharper features, but when she smiled, I saw it. The same slight crookedness in the left side of the mouth that Ben had. The same way their eyes crinkled when they laughed nervously. She brought photos. Their biological father, a man named James Harlan, had passed away from a heart attack 6 years earlier. He had been an engineer, quiet, bookish, never married after Megan's mother. Megan said he always seemed like he was carrying something heavy he never talked about. I think he knew, she said softly, or at least suspected there was another child somewhere. He kept a box of old letters in his closet. One of them was addressed to a woman named Patricia in Chicago. He never mailed it. Ben's hands trembled as he looked at the faded envelope. We spent the whole afternoon talking. Megan was warm, funny, and surprisingly understanding. She didn't try to replace Rich. She just offered another piece of the puzzle. When we drove home that night, Ben was quiet for the first 2 hours. Then he said something that broke my heart and healed it at the same time. I think I can forgive Rich for not telling me, but I don't know if I can forgive Mom for making him carry that lie for 33 years. Back in Chicago, the family storm was getting worse. Patricia started calling Ben's work. She left messages with his assistant saying it was an emergency. She showed up at his job site once, crying in the parking lot, telling his coworkers that her son was having a mental breakdown because of his manipulative wife. Tyler created a GoFundMe titled, "Help Our Family Heal from Toxic In-Law Abuse." It raised almost $4,000 before we got it taken down with proof of the false claims. The worst was when Patricia sent Ben a long email with old baby photos attached. In the email, she wrote, "You were my miracle baby. I carried you. I nursed you. Rich chose to love you. Don't throw away your real family for a DNA percentage and a woman who wants to control you." Ben read it once, then forwarded it to our lawyer without a word. That was when I decided it was time to stop being quiet. I started compiling everything. Every nasty text, every voicemail, every Facebook post, every time they had tried to turn extended family against us. I organized it into a simple, factual timeline and sent it to the most reasonable relatives, the ones who hadn't fully drunk the Kool-Aid yet. I didn't add commentary. I just let the words speak for themselves. The response was slow at first, then like dominoes falling. An aunt replied, "I had no idea it was this bad." A cousin messaged Ben privately, "Your mom told us you were having a breakdown. This doesn't sound like a breakdown. This sounds like betrayal." The family began to split. Some stayed loyal to Patricia. Others started reaching out to Ben with cautious support. Rich was the one who surprised us most. One cold November evening, he showed up at our door alone. No Patricia, no Tyler, just him in his old Carhartt jacket, holding a small wooden box. Ben let him in. They sat at our kitchen table, the same one we had just bought at IKEA 2 months earlier. Rich opened the box. Inside were letters he had written to Ben over the years but never sent. Letters explaining the truth. Letters apologizing. Letters saying how proud he was of the man Ben had become. "I was weak," Rich said, voice rough. "I let your mother convince me that the lie was kinder. It wasn't. I'm sorry, son. I will always be your dad, if you'll still have me. Blood or no blood." Ben didn't hug him that night, but he didn't ask him to leave either. They talked until midnight. Real talk. Painful talk. The kind that leaves everyone raw, but maybe, just maybe, a little freer. When Rich left, he paused at the door and looked at me. "Thank you, Claire, for loving him enough to tell the truth even when it hurt." That night the house felt different again. I woke up at 3:17 a.m. to the smell of Old Spice. This time it wasn't frightening. It felt grateful, like a quiet thank you drifting through the hallway. Ben was already awake, sitting up in bed. "Did you smell that too?" he whispered. I nodded. We didn't speak after that. We just lay there holding hands until the sun came up. The real confrontation was still coming. Patricia and Tyler weren't ready to let go. They had one last card to play, and it involved threatening to cut Ben out of any future inheritance and telling the entire extended family that Ben had abandoned his mother in her time of need. But Ben was no longer the man who would stay silent to keep the peace. He was becoming someone who chose truth over comfort. And I was standing right beside him. The final chapter of this family war was about to begin. And this time, we weren't going to be the ones bleeding. The holidays were approaching, and the silence from Patricia's side of the family had grown louder than any shouting. Thanksgiving came and went without a single invitation. No awkward family dinner. No forced smiles over turkey. Just Ben and me, a small roasted chicken, and a quiet table set for two. We didn't turn on the football game. We talked instead about the house, about the garden we wanted to plant in spring, about the baby we were starting to think about. For the first time in months, the conversation felt light, hopeful, but the calm didn't last. 2 days after Thanksgiving, Patricia sent the final blow. She emailed Ben a formal letter from her lawyer. It stated that because Ben had publicly humiliated and abandoned his mother, she was removing him from her will and trust. The family lake house in Wisconsin, the savings bonds, even the small investment account Rich had started for him as a child, all of it was being redirected to Tyler. The letter ended with one cold line. "We hope you find peace with the choices you have made." Ben read it once, then slid the laptop across the kitchen island to me. His face was calm, almost too calm. "She's trying to punish me with money," he said quietly, like that was ever what I wanted from them. That night we made a decision together. No more waiting.
No more hoping they would come around.
We were going to finish this cleanly, honestly, and on our terms. Ben wrote a single, long message and sent it to every family member on both sides, aunts, uncles, cousins, even some old neighbors who had known him since he was little. He attached the DNA test results, the timeline I had compiled, Rich's unsent letters, and a short video he recorded himself. In the video, Ben looked straight into the camera, no anger, just exhaustion and clarity. "I'm not here to destroy anyone. I'm here to stop living inside a lie. Rich raised me. He was my dad in every way that counted. But my mother chose to hide the truth for 33 years. She chose to gaslight me, to shame my wife, and to turn the rest of the family against us when we asked for honesty. I love the man who raised me, but I can no longer pretend the rest of this family is healthy. If you want to stay in my life, you are welcome. But I will no longer accept being punished for wanting the truth." The message spread like wildfire through the family group chats. Within 48 hours, the tide shifted dramatically. Several aunts and uncles replied privately to Ben with support and apologies. One cousin even admitted Patricia had been feeding them lies for months. Tyler tried to fight back with angry voice notes, but they only made him look smaller. The most surprising response came from Rich. He showed up at our door on a snowy December evening carrying nothing but a small envelope. Inside was a new will he had just had drawn up. In it, he left everything he personally owned, his retirement account, his tools, his classic Mustang in the garage, equally to Ben and Tyler. He had already signed it. "I can't control what your mother does," he told Ben at the door, snow melting on his shoulders. "But I can control what I do. You are my son. You always will be. Blood never changed that for me." Ben hugged him that night. A long, tight hug that ended with both of them crying quietly on the porch. Patricia never forgave us. She doubled down. She told anyone who would listen that I had brainwashed her son and destroyed their family. But fewer and fewer people believed her. The extended family started quietly distancing themselves. Sunday dinners became smaller. Tyler moved out of the house and got a studio apartment, the first time he had ever lived alone. We heard through a cousin that Patricia cried for 3 days straight when she learned about Rich's new will. As for us, we slowly started building the life we actually wanted. We planted tulips and lavender in the backyard the following spring. Ben took up woodworking in the garage on weekends, something Rich had taught him as a kid. I went back to work full-time with more confidence than before. We started trying for a baby. One warm evening in May, almost a year after that night Rich confessed in our empty living room, Ben and I sat on the back porch again. The garden was finally starting to bloom. Fireflies blinked in the grass. Ben took my hand and said something I'll never forget. I used to think family was something you were born into. Now I know it's something you choose every single day. Thank you for choosing me even when it was hard. I rested my head on his shoulder. The strange occurrences in the house had almost stopped by then. But every once in a while, usually on quiet nights, I would still catch the faint scent of Old Spice drifting through the hallway. It no longer felt like a warning. It felt like a gentle goodbye and a quiet blessing. Sometimes I wondered if Rich's guilt, or maybe even the man who was Ben's biological father, had left something behind in the walls of his house. A kind of watchful presence that had seen the lie finally break and wanted to make sure the truth could grow. We never found out for sure, and maybe we didn't need to, because in the end, we had chosen each other. We had chosen honesty over comfort. We had chosen the family we were building over the one that tried to bury us in secrets. My name is Claire Thompson. I am 32 years old now. My husband is still healing, but he is healing strong. We have a beautiful home with a garden that actually grows. We have chosen family who show up without conditions. And every night when I turn off the lights, I whisper the same thing into the dark. Thank you for the truth. Thank you for the pain. Thank you for letting us become who we were always meant to be. Some secrets are meant to stay buried. Ours wasn't, and I have never been more grateful for that.